I've got this big white patch here, and it says this meeting is being recorded. It says let me continue, so I've got to continue. There you go. See you, mate. Fucking beauty.
Done.
Thanks for inviting me on, Josh. I really appreciate it, mate. And
no problem.
My name's Mark Kluwer, and I live up in Hepburn, in a place we've called Elevated Springs. That's a retreat space that we're building at the moment. I started my life in Melbourne. In Melbourne, I grew up in the outer suburbs of Melbourne, the northeast suburbs of Melbourne, in a little town, Montmorency. It's probably not that little now. Do you know the place, do you, mate? Do you know Monty? Yeah, Monty boy, mate. So I played footy there at the local footy club, and so that's where I started my journey. And then when I was 25 years after that. Sorry, that's not right. Sorry, mate, I fucked that up. But I'm actually quite happy to show me fuck ups because we're real, mate. So
that's it, yeah.
Keep rolling. But anyway, the thing is, I grew up in Montmorency, and then started my plumbing. I had a plumbing career with my brother, and then we started a plumbing and building company, all sorts of construction, maintenance and building stuff. And then we went on to the building side, and then. But it's interesting, Josh, when I was about 50, mate, and I was living, happy family, in Alphington. We bought some land in Alphington all those years ago. We built a house there, and we were there for 25 years, mate. But there was something not right with me, mate. I was 50. I was still training at the gym. I've always trained and always pushed myself, on the physical side and also the mental side. But I was a bit uninspired, mate, and I was counting the days down. I was 50 years old. And it's like, mate, my favourite days of the week were Friday afternoon, Saturday and Sunday. I know you've heard me say this before, mate. And when you're 50, your kids are, older, like they're nearly able to support themselves. And it's like, well, you got to look at yourself. If you're not happy and you're just doing it because you think you can't do anything else, you got to seriously have a look, mate.
Yeah.
And I was uninspired but I was, as I said, training hard, eating good food. I never drank. And still not today. I don't drink or anything. So I reckon I had those boxes ticked, but there was a gap there, and I just go through the motions of my family business, my brother, and it sounds crazy, but I lost the motivation. And him and I get on well. Even now, I left the business, but there was a gap there, mate. And what happened? What happened in 2016? I had the opportunity at the last minute to go to a Wim Hof retreat.
Yeah,
and he came to Australia, and it was down the west coast of Victoria in Aireys Inlet. And what had happened there is that, and for me, I talk about stepping through the door, right? And life gave me the opportunity, and we have it in all facets of life, all times of life. There's a door. There's a door there, mate. And the thing is, for me, in 2016, I had the opportunity to go to this retreat, and the door opened. But I was really concerned about stepping through that because, I was comfortable but uninspired. Like a lot of people are comfortable and they're just going through the motions, right? And it's interesting because the door opened a bit earlier, Josh, and when I look back at these things, and I actually love to recall them because I forget about them. Like when you have these things come up, like this COVID thing again, it's come up. We've got to, keep positive, but it's really hard sometimes. You go back and you withdraw, but when I recount these stories, it makes me happy, mate. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it was about a month in 2016, about a month before it was in August, he came out to Australia, and about a month before, I'd never heard of Wim Hof, mate. Hadn't heard of him, but a good mate of mine used to work in our family business. Like a brother, actually. And he said he sees suffering from mental health. And he said to me, Mark, you've got to look at what this crazy Dutchman's doing, and he's surviving. And straight away when he said that, I thought, well, crazy Dutchman, my old man's Dutch. I got plenty of crazy Dutch uncles. That ticked the box. But also that pushing to the limits what he was doing, which is something that I played high-end sport as a young person, and then started kayaking, running marathons, all those kind of things, and to see how far I could push myself physically, and mentally. And so I was also drawn to that, but that's not what I needed though, Josh. I was disconnected, mate. I was here, but I wasn't here. You got to have them both connected, mate, and so I remember that weekend, my mate rang me, and he said, have a look at this crazy Dutchman. And so that weekend, and it was a month before, in July 2016. It's interesting also, Josh, when you have these life-changing moments in life, right? You remember, it's like you're in liminal space, they call it, when you can exactly, and you would do it at your fights as well, you would exactly know when it was a turning point or pivotal point in your life. You actually know to the hour. And it's still for me, and for example, it was about 3:00 on Sunday afternoon in July. And I was listening, once I saw about women, what my mate told me, I was looking on Instagram and looked at a few podcasts, and then there's a London Reel, not London Reel. Oh yeah, he did a thing with London Reel, but also he did an interview with Tim Ferriss, and I listened to that, and I said to my wife, I'm going to meet this fella, and then 4 weeks later, I'm training at the gym, and my instructor said at the time, he said, now this is on a Friday, Wim was coming, this event was taking place the next Wednesday, and he said, and I was just about to do my squats, and he said, oh, Wim's, come to Australia, and I said, well, I'm fucking coming, mate. He said, you can't. I said, I'm coming, he said, well, there's a waiting list of 70 people, it's booked out.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I remember I finished my workout, got back to work. I was on a roof in North Melbourne. I rang up the convener or the organizer, said, listen, mate, is there any chance I can come? Anyway, and he said, look, there's a waiting list. We'll see. Anyway, so about 2 days before, it was actually a Monday night, the next Monday, and I get a call at 9:00 at night. It's a 24-hour building company, always got the phone on.
Yeah.
And this phone call, do you want to go to this Wim Hof retreat? And it was like, fucking yeah. And when I said yes, the anxiousness and all that anxiety came up, and then I put the phone down and I went, oh, fuck no, I knew there was a change, but I had to step through it, mate, And that's when, and that was a pivotal time for me in my life, and as I said, I wasn't connected here. I was uninspired, I trained hard, did all those things, didn't know what meditation was. I thought, oh yeah, what's this stuff? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was at early on in life, I was at the roulette wheel, mate. And I put all my chips on black. And it was, what does success and what does masculinity? You do these things, you work hard, you don't show much emotion. You want to look like you own this and you own that, or you borrow this money for this, all this shit, mate. It was all there on black. And here I am at 50 and I'm fucking uninspired. It hasn't worked, mate. It hasn't worked.
Yeah. So you made that change by going to that event and really feeling vulnerable there.
Yeah. And so I went to and see, also, like I said earlier, I grew up in the outer suburbs of Melbourne. Played footy for the local footy club. Basketball and cricket. And there was this. It's probably, and there's still areas like it now. Obviously, what the persona of or what stigma, true masculinity is, stigma, and what true masculinity looks like, mate. And so here I am, and I being in the building trade, I'll give you the example of the shield wall. The wall that I put up over the years was a brick wall, and the cement was going. It's now it's up to me head here. You know what I mean? Like at 50, and so I had this brick wall around me, not letting anyone in. And then so I went through my junior football, played football, and then started my plumbing apprenticeship on Rialto in 1984. And I remember I walked in to the site there, first day, 18 years old. And that was a boom there in the building industry, and there was 80 plumbers in this company. And instead of welcoming and say, g'day, Mark, how are you? It was all the first thing some of these bigger old fellas said was, we're going to initiate you. You know, and it was rife through the building trade. It was appalling what was going on, mate. You know what I mean? But they felt the right that they had to pass that on because it happened to them.
Yeah.
You know, brought up all this bullshit. And I remember saying that it's not happening to me. If I get sacked, it's not happening. But the thing is, and the stigma on men showing how they feel here is a sign of weakness, you know, and it's not. It's a fucking sign of courage, Josh. There are times, as you know, in the ring where you've got to be like this. In business, you've got to. I'm not saying you. There are times, and it's about balance we need in life. And I wasn't balanced, mate.
Yeah.
I was fucking two ways the other way. You know what I mean? I was too much yang. I'm still plenty of yang, but I like yin, mate. And I realised you got to have them both, man. You know what I mean? So here I turn up. I turn up to this retreat. There's 60 other people, right? I've got this brick wall up to me, up here. You know, it's right up the top here. And the first day we start breathing, mate. And this emotion started to come up. I thought, what the fuck's this? I've dealt with all this stuff. You know, everyone has these skeletons in the closet, mate. And what we do, we push them deep, mate, because we don't want to show and be vulnerable to anyone, even your good close mates. But, you know, you never feel that you can go and tell them how you're feeling because you think, oh, I'm feeling a bit weak, you know. So they'll push deep, deep inside, mate. And on that first day, mate, it went off. Poof. And I remember that the emotion was building just with the breathing. And there's something said, I just let go. I just let go, you know. And I remember after the first session, Josh, I thought, what are they going to think of me, mate? You know, all these people here, what are they going to think of me? Men and women, 50-year-old bloke sobbing. But, mate, that's where the power was. They got around me, mate.
Yeah.
They got around me, and being truly vulnerable in a group of people, that's where the true connection is, Josh. That's 100%. Where it is, mate. You know, look at that event we did, that men's event. We had 67 men there, and the connection at the start, it was awkward, normal. That's normal.
Yeah.
But once we just let go and be ourselves, mate, and be true, authentic self, no one judges, mate.
Yeah, exactly.
We're safe. You know, and so for me, I came out of that weekend 5 days of deep, deep emotional uprising, I'll say. It just fucking went off like a Coke bottle lid, mate. Volcano. And for 5 days, and I remember at the last, the fifth day, someone was saying, oh, shit, Mark's bloody crying again, you know what I mean? But it was just so uplifting, and I felt like there was all this stuff just lifted off my back. I was tired, but I had clarity, and it was just so, it was beautiful, mate. And then after every breathing session, we'd have a chat about it, and the bond's close. Like I've still got that pivotal time when that door opened and I walked through, changed my life with people in my life that I still see now that we're close, mate. There's deep connection here, which I never even experienced that playing footy, mate.
Yeah.
Because after the game, everyone's drinking piss, right? As for me being a non-drinker, I just used to say 10 o'clock, I'll go home now because it goes out of control. And people may open up at that time, but the next day it suppresses emotions, mate.
True.
So what happens the next day? They can't remember. They don't want to talk about it. It's like, you know. And so this was a truly powerful thing for me. This 5 days in August 2016, I remember halfway through this retreat, I said to a mate of mine, I said, Geordie, I said, I'm going to open a retreat space, mate. I'm going to open a retreat space in nature to provide a space for people to come and be themselves. You know, I'm not the teacher. We share. Nature's our teacher. The cold, I learned so much about what the cold, that's a teacher. That goes right to the soul, mate. You know, all these beautiful things, and just with, you know, like-minded people, you get together, it's fucking powerful, mate. You know what I mean? It's so powerful. Absolutely. And you know, and that stuck to me, you know, and I remember coming home and I sat in the kitchen table and just tears, you know, sheeting down my face, you know, and my wife rang up my brother, you know, business partner at the time, and said, Paul, something's happened to Mark. Because see, my face was just just pouring. But Julie had never seen it before, you know. And I actually looked like I said this earlier, you know, my face looked like, you know, the National Art Gallery with all the streaming down, but a bit of hairy one, mate, you know, like it's sheeting, son. And my daughters came home and I thought, what, you know? And my brother said to my wife, you know, on the phone, I've been to these things. He'll be right in a couple of days or a couple of weeks. Mate, I'm right now. You know. It's been a hard road, you know. We sold the family house. There was fear. I tried to drop the fear, you know, for a few times. We tried to sell the house, and then we couldn't actually end up going through. I thought, well, what happens if we sell it and we can't get back into that area? All these kind of things come up that suppress us and stop us walking further and going on and further, mate. You know, the what ifs.
Yeah.
What if I make a wrong decision? I don't reckon there is any wrong decisions. You just go, son. You know? And so we sold the family home. 25 years we'd be living in Alphington. Kids had grown up, and that was hard, mate. You know, obviously. And I remember we had the auction, and no one put a bid in. And I started, you know, it was just what they were doing, you know, like just a strategy.
Yeah.
And then I started fucking. I thought to Julie, well, fucking, we've done this now. We're in deep now because we've had the auction. We've paid all the money, for the, or we're committed to the real estate agent. And it's interesting. I had a conversation with a mate, you know, early the week. It didn't sell on the weekend, and he said, "But Mark," I said, he said to me, "Mark, have you let the house go yet, mate? Have you let it go?" You know what I mean? I said, "No, probably not."
Yeah.
I'm hanging on to something, you know. And that was probably on the Tuesday. He said that to me. On that night, I went home, and I remember everyone had gone to sleep, and I went up and just meditated and just breathed and just felt, and I could feel there was something there was a shift that happened, mate. And then the next day, you know, we had the offer, and that was sold on the Thursday. So, you know, but I was challenged again. Is this the right, you know, it always comes up, mate. It always comes up. You're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
You know, and I think you just got to back yourself, mate. You know, like hardest thing's been like when we came up. So I had this vision, you know, about about a retreat space. We sold the house. I hadn't found any land yet. I just knew this was what we had to do. And you know, I put my family through grief. You know, my wife, it's not her journey, but you know, she was comfortable at home, and I thought, well, we're going to move. You know, let's do this. And so we found some land. And she wouldn't talk to me for a year, mate.
Yeah, right.
Or well, she was really anxious because, you know, I was ready. We lived in this house for 25 years, you know, and then all of a sudden I've disrupted my wife. Yeah. It's totally, blokes are different, mate, you know, totally disrupted all that. And then here I am. I'm ready in all this turbulence. I'm looking at land, ready to go, mate, you know, and we found some land, and yeah, she wouldn't come up to, you know, because we were then rented in Melbourne for another year. She wouldn't come up to Hepburn at this particular place because it gave her too much anxiety. So, for, you know, 2 days a week, I'd come up and sit on the land and just see it all unfold, you know. But it was a bloody journey, mate, I tell you, because it was fucking difficult sitting there, you know. And she just hated it, mate. She hated it and hated it. Well, she did. She hated the place. But tough woman, mate. You know, like. You know, she's hung in there with me, and I'd be buggered without Julie. You know, she's so I love her, mate. And you know, if I was going to war, mate, I know she'd be beside me throwing rocks.
That's a good saying. I never heard that.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She's mate, tough, mate. You know, talk about blokes being tough. Women are tough, mate.
Yeah. You
know, and strong men and women, we stand side by side. We don't lead each other. We stay together, mate. And we fucking push through. And so, and here we are today, you know. And then COVID hit last year, of course. And then I remember sitting out in the veranda in the middle of winter, and no one's coming, mate. And then I start to answer questioning again. The doubt. What have I done? I've dragged Julie up here. Well, I'm beautiful. 70 acres. It's beautiful, you know. What have I done? You know. And then I started to focus. Because there were only all we had up here at that time. Our visitors were kangaroos. We got heaps of them. and crickets, mate. That's all I'll tell you, mate. Kangaroos and fucking crickets, you know.
Yeah.
And I remember I thought, no, this has got to be right. Because then when I was sitting out in the chair out the veranda looking down the valley, and I started to focus on the people from 2016 that I met and the journey to here sitting on that veranda, you know. And I started to focus on that, the way we bought the land. My next door neighbour on my north boundary is a good mate of a mate of mine. We've become close mates. That was a coincidence. The way we bought the land, you know, all these things. And then the people I've met and along the way. And then I started to really focus on that feeling. I thought, like, this has to be right. So it brings you back, you know. And I talk about, and there's a lot of, you know, talk about living in flow. Well, I reckon that's right, mate. And at that time, I was in the river, but the river was wide, mate. I just stepped in. You've got to get in the river, mate. Just fucking jump in. You put a toe in, you jump in. You know, if you're uninspired, you want to change something up, give it a crack, mate. You never know.
Sink or swim.
It is, mate. And like it's triggered me. We had an event happening this weekend. You know, had 30 people booked in, and we've had to cancel it. And it's like, well,
yeah.
Now that's triggering me. I see it big time, because it's coming back to, well, last year, you know, and like that was for everyone. That was quite crippling last year for you know, for our mental space, and also like financially for people as well, you know. And we're lucky up here, you know, being on 70 acres. Melbourne people, my heart goes out to the people in Melbourne that what they had to put up with, you know.
Yeah.
But, yeah. We just got to keep united. We just have to keep united, mate, you know, with this. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So just tell us a bit about so that space from 2016. So you do your first event with Wim, and then you did another one, right? Because you got certified to be a Wim Hof instructor.
Yeah. So what happened?
How'd that go?
Okay. So what happened? So 2016, exactly. I had 5-day retreat, and then a year later, I had the certification. So there was the Oceania group, and we were the first lot of instructors to be certified in it was Australia and New Zealand, basically. They call it the Oceania. So I did the course. There were 2 courses there that I did, and Wim was in Australia when we did those, which is great. So we trained with him, and I obtained my certification. Yes, I did that.
Yeah.
And then I travelled around the country. There's me and a mate, another instructor. We toured around Australia, and we called the Chill Seekers. And we went up the East Coast. We had a little 70s caravan. We painted it up. My daughters painted my ugly head on it with my mates, Zane's head on it. And we travelled around we went right up the East Coast. We started in, you know, went Adelaide, Geelong, and then, you know, obviously Melbourne, and then up to Sydney, Coffs Harbour, Byron Bay, Nambour, and then right across to Alice Springs. You know, in a month, sharing a method, you know, with the Wim Hof method.
So you're just doing pop-up events along the way, or?
We booked some stuff on the way in the car as well, and also some pop-up events. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, and it was great, you know. And for me, I'm now a former Wim Hof instructor. I'm not a Wim Hof instructor now. I'm a former Wim Hof instructor. But that was a tool that I've learned, because, you know, for me, I didn't want to be defined on just doing the Wim Hof stuff. You know what I mean? Breathing in an ice bath, but it's also about the connection. And I also studied rites of passage, mate, you know, which is really important. That I think now it's been lost, you know, like and I always thought with rites of passage, for example, I studied with the Rites of Passage Institute, Anna Rubinstein up in Byron Bay. I did the course up there, and for me it was always, I thought rites of passage is from boyhood or girlhood to womanhood or manhood, but it's all through your life. And I found out this when I did the course, you know. But the thing is, the rites of passage has been lost, because for thousands of years, tribes all around the world, no communication with each other, but they knew how important this rite of passage is, mate.
Yeah, right. So what do you mean by the rite of passage?
What do I mean by the rite of passage? Okay. Yeah. So basically, when we're growing up, we'll talk about it, boyhood, to manhood. There's a time in our years, I think the most happiest time for a boy is 12 years old in life. And then from 12 to 18, this is where it comes, right? From 12 to 18, when they're 18, they're usually the most unhappiest of their life. That's the figures they're saying, And so what the rite of passage is when the boy goes into manhood, and there's challenge by choice along the way that the community then come around and see the change in these boys to men and acknowledge they've gone they've passed their manhood into manhood.
Yeah, right.
And there are obviously rituals that they have. They're still having rituals today, around the world, different tribes, what they have. They might send them off so that, the boys are sent off into the wilderness for so many days or night or whatever. And once they come through that, and when they come back, they're acknowledged that they've passed through that to manhood. Now, the problem is, in today's society, we're seeing a lot of, say, young men, for example, risk-taking behaviour, right? They're not challenged, but so they're either drink driving, okay? They might be fighting. They could do all these unfacilitated, unsafe, risky stuff, risky stuff that's not facilitated. They may have a life-changing experience. They might, I had a good mate of mine that I've met through Wim Hof and just travelling around. He tried to commit suicide, probably not the right word, suicided, and he became a paraplegic. And that was a life-changing thing for him. And he realised, he said, it's the best thing that happened to him. Like, that's power to say that, mate. You know what I mean? And so what we try to do is facilitate these challenges so they're safe, and so they don't take this risk-take behaviour. Because what can happen, like what happened to my mate, is he's nearly ended his life, and he's stepped through, and found where he needs to go. But wouldn't it be great if he was still not in a wheelchair?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? So, and so it's so powerful, this rite of passage that's been lost, and society's lost this, mate. It's just lost it.
So I think we touched on this a little bit at the event that we did the other week. So what I'm getting is this rite of passage is almost like guiding young men and women, or even older men and women that haven't fully done it yet, to get to that self where they feel whole and comfortable, and they've sort of gone through that next door, instead of being, say, for example, my age, and going through these risky behaviors because I don't know any better. I don't know how to do it, and I'm sort of acting out because I'm confused.
And is
that what I'm getting at? Is that what I'm hearing?
Exactly. And so here's I'll give you an example. One of the examples for me is in 2016. I went through a rite of passage at 50. I didn't understand what the role of the elder was. The elder, and see what's happened with society. This is the other thing why rites of passage, it's fallen away. It's because we're stuck in society of not aging. True. We're not aging, exactly right. Eldership. And at 50, I realised what I went through, and I look back, is I was going through a rite of passage from adulthood for me to eldership, where I can support the young ones. And that's what I learned, mate. And the thing is, especially at men between, in their 40s to 50s, for example, they start getting uninspired with life. Tick, that was me, right? Because the way society works is it's like a staircase. That's the social structure. The community, for example. As we walk the stairs, we've got people coming up behind, all different ages. When we get to a point and we get agitation, which I had agitation, I was uninspired. Okay, they get stuck on that. And what they do, they crowd the staircase up for everyone else. It needs to flow smoothly through. I was stuck there, and this was an opportunity for me, right? And I went through this, and I realised, and that whole Wim Hof, I didn't know what was happening though, to be, at that Wim Hof retreat and those, the next year or so, I didn't know what it was until I went to the rite of passage, and Anna explained what happens through the rite of passage. And I could exactly see. So I went into this place and I went through, and there was a challenge by choice. We did the challenges, the ice bath, community, see that?
Yeah.
It needs to be done in community, mate. You know what I mean? And then I came out the other side. And I moved on, and I realised that's what I have to do. You find your purpose. I found the purpose, mate. I finally, at 50, found my purpose, mate. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it takes that. Damn, I think we touched on this a little bit as well, but so to be in a room, so for anyone that hasn't heard any of this before, basically we went to this event up in Dalesford or Glen Isle.
Yeah, Glen Lyon near Dalesford, yeah.
Glen Lyon. And there's a big room, there's 60 of us, all men, all different ages, older, younger. I've seen a few 18-year-olds. I'm 24. I know there's a few 50 plus.
Yep.
And it was just crazy to see that we've got a room full of strangers all together for the same sort of reason. And maybe even some didn't know why they were there. I mean, I know I dragged a few mates along. They probably had no idea what we were doing.
Yep.
And they might have just been expecting some Wim Hof stuff. But I quickly realized once we started talking about manhood and changing the stigma to being what it means to be a real man, and instead of just putting up these walls. And then I thought, man, this is really cool that I'm seeing this guy over here who's opening up, and he's 50 or something, and I'm 24. And we're talking about for you guys to realize, and I take my hat off to you, because being 50 plus to make that sort of a change after having some really hard ingrained habits throughout your whole life, and to make a change then, that's near impossible in my mind. But it was so great to hear. But then I'm hearing you guys say the exact same thing. Like, we have to start this movement, and we have to pass it along to the young ones now, and not just us telling them, but let's bring them and let's get them involved. And I don't know, I never ever felt anything like that, to be a part of and to feel equal with men of different ages that want to see me better myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was incredible.
And this is the other thing. We've got this stick, because I'm 55. What can I learn from Josh who's 24? No, it's beautiful, mate. It's multi-age learning. That's what we need. We share. It's about, so we drop the ego and we go together. The same thing. But if we can, as an elder now, and that's what I really learned on the rite of passage. Me and elder now sharing where I went, and we can guide young people that if they're just off the rails or whatever, or they need. See, a lot of what happens with the disconnection, between 12 and 18, boys, they love their fathers, but they may not find that they need someone outside from their parents that they look up to, another male role model, for example. Okay, so this is what's important. So we provide this. We want to provide this, mate. You know what I mean? Is that we can get a group of blokes, have a chat. They might be after that. They might feel uncomfortable speaking to their parents about it, and that's normal. It's not abnormal. That's normal, mate. It just gives them another avenue. They can learn, and we learn together, mate.
Yeah,
we go as one. And so this was important. So when men, I'm talking from my perspective now, when they get stuck, and they might, and they work all their life. I didn't want to retire. And I don't intend retiring, mind you, as being a plumber or builder, and that's it. That I didn't want to have that defined as who I am. That's not my identity, mate. It's Mark Kluwer. Yeah, I was a plumber and a builder, and I still am. When I say that, but I was really concerned because I see plenty of, tradesmen, they finish and they just keep doing this because they've got nothing else, mate.
Yeah.
If they love it, it's different if they love it. I was stuck on that staircase, and there's a lot of blokes, they're stuck there, and what they're doing, they're then causing problems. They're unhappy, and so everyone around them feels this agitation.
Yeah.
It's the agitation they feel, and if they get stuck. And that's what we know, and that's what we need to keep moving. So the staircase everything keeps flowing. The young ones come through. They're not doing stuff like, dangerous stuff, because they're not being challenged. As I said, it's challenge by choice. It's like when we did the ice bath that night, mate. You don't have to, it's there. Let's share it, what I've learned. If you want to jump in, go for it. And it's even up here, challenge by choice. The ice bath's going to be there. It's going to have 40 bags of ice in it, mate. It'll be down to 0 degrees. Let's jump in, see how you go. If you don't want to, that's fine. You've got to be ready to do it yourself.
Yeah.
And
and then to have that community around to push them and encourage them. Yeah.
Exactly. And so what happens? So, for example, we get back to the tribes. The young women or the young men, they go out. They do their challenge, whatever that tribe, whatever they're doing, When they come back, so the community's there to see them leave. Okay. As a child, boy and daughter. The community there to wave goodbye. When they come back, the community there again to support them and have seen them come back as a man and as a woman. The community is so important here, mate, for the support. It's
to have that support network.
Gosh, you know what I mean? So important, mate. And, and that's what we're trying to, build community is so important, mate. Community, connection, and commitment, mate.
The three C's,
mate. The 3 C's, mate.
Yeah.
3 C's, mate.
So you guys are obviously doing a lot of great stuff with these events that you do. And you mentioned a few things on the way out that how we can help in our own communities. What would you say is that sort of like, how do we extend that sort of help and community into just everyday life? Like, it doesn't have to be, you have to come to this event and learn how it's all done. What are just little things that we can do to encourage that small circle around us?
I reckon what you have to do is just be open, mate. And first, you've got to lead by example, Josh. It won't change unless, there's got to be, courage. You just got to, if, for example, one of my main drivers also is I've got my daughters. Okay. My daughters are, they're in their 20s, middle to late 20s. I've got 2 daughters, and one of my main drivers is and I'm not going to say toxic masculinity. I'm going to say toxic human behavior, right? Because there's a lot of, this takes a while to get into, but this is really important for me because I've seen over the years, and I want everyone to for men and women to live in harmony, right? And I see that some of this toxicity through various groups, might be maybe football clubs, it's all about masculinity being about how many cans you can drink, how many women you can go out, all this kind of stuff. It's all bullshit, mate. It's failed, right? And the thing is, so what's really important, because to be truly masculine is not toxic, mate. True masculinity for me is me sharing as much love as I can and nurturing as many people as I can to nurture so they can be their true self, mate.
True. Yeah, to have that courage to embody those feelings that most people try and shy away from. That's if you're with your mates
and they say and it happens, and there's some pretty average stuff being said, pull them up. You got to call them out, mate.
Yeah.
One of the most important things, if you've got a good mate or you're in a group, and there's 5 to 10 blokes and they're talking, you got to pull them up and say, listen, that's not right, mate.
Yeah.
And try to change. We need to change. And the only way we do that is we stand up and we become leaders, mate. That's how we have to do it.
Yeah, true. So be the change you wish to see.
Exactly. Be the change. So embody, if you feel strongly about it, there's no black, mate. It's black or white. You fucking go, mate. If you want to do this, and that's what as I said, really is really important is, and as I said, for one of the drivers is for my daughters is having men and women living in harmony, mate.
Yeah. Just totally equal. Yeah.
It's totally equal, mate. Exactly. But what's happening is there's a lot of, young boys say they don't have a male role model now, mate. And so there's a confusion on what masculinity and being truly masculine is toxic, and it's not that. So there's confusion there. So this is why the elders and the men need to be around, and we're providing these, we want to start these groups to do that, mate, and to be around and show them that you can be strong, you can, and masculine, but that doesn't mean you want to fight and you're going to talk and you're going to be drinking beer, all this kind of stuff. It's not about that, mate. It's about true connection.
Yeah, 100%.
But this is what I'm concerned about. Like the patriarchal system's failed, mate. Right? It's failed, and so here we have now. We've got a reaction. Is that so? True masculinity is what patriarchal system is, and it's not, mate. It's not. As I said, for me, true masculinity is loving people, mate.
Yeah.
As much love and nurturing people as we can. It's not about saying that we're above women and this inequality. It's about like equal.
Yeah. I like that. That's a good way to think about it. Actually, when you're saying that, I just want to quickly bring up and just sort of share. But I remember when we first met. So Mark and I met at Hepburn Springs, just sharing a sauna and a bit of a bath together. And it's funny, Josh. That was the first time I've ever been in that bathhouse, and I've been living there a couple of years. But in an interesting, it's cool. Yeah, yep. Because I remember, actually, when you were saying, because I remember telling a mate about that who I ended up bringing, and he said these things don't happen by chance. He's like, you weren't there at that time for no reason, and that wasn't his first time there for no reason, and call it how you like, but 100%. I mean, look at where we are now. Yeah. We had a little chat there, and now we're on a podcast. We did the event together, and we're spreading the same sort of message. And it's those sort of things don't happen by accident. But I remember as well, because it was a very pivotal time for me, because obviously we met very shortly after I had face surgery. A lot of people know here that I'm a professional kickboxer, and I had my face broken in my return fight. So before that, I actually, and the listeners know this, but before that, I was actually diagnosed with a tumor in my leg, and my career was put on a halt for the first time. So I was already a professional fighter, get diagnosed with a tumor, and this was my first fight since that. So I did a whole recovery for a year, and then I go into my first return fight and I break my face. And then I was like, damn, like what is this? And then that next week after surgery was when I met you, and it was actually good that young Mark was there. And he's also a retired fighter, and he'd had to retire multiple times until he finally got it. But he said to me, which was really encouraging for me to come to the event in the first place. And he was saying that sort of what we're talking about now, how we go through these behaviors because we're confused and we're not too sure why we do it, but we feel something inside of us. And this comes out in different ways. For me, it was fighting. For others, it's all sorts of behaviors. And you're right. But he was saying that instead of just trying to retire cold turkey and not put that energy somewhere else, you really have to channel it and sort of dig deep into what it is that you're really fighting for. You know what I mean? Like, what is it that you're really trying to get at? What's that hole you're trying to fill, and why are you doing it? And obviously he was saying that, the breath work and the ice baths and that sort of release is what helped him. And that's what he was searching for. And I've thought about this for a while now anyway, and I'm not completely silly. I understand that I fight for a reason that's bigger than just fighting. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I need to find something else because, going through a tumor and breaking my face, obviously I can't keep fighting. Like it's not going to have much longevity if that's my release. And then looking at ice baths and breath work and even just having a real conversation with someone, that's feeling that same urge. I don't have to be in a ring trying to, battle it out and prove to myself who I am, or try and overcome another person to feel content with myself. Do you know what I mean? And it's just, I don't know. We did the event, did the breathwork stuff, and I've done a few events like that before. So it wasn't anything completely new, but what was completely new is that for my friends that I brought along with me, we went camping that night. So after the event, we stayed in Dalesford. And it was great. Like, we had a fire set up, and just the talks around the fire. I never ever had especially with the boys that I brought, like
Really?
they're great for banter, and
Yeah.
I was seeing a whole nother side to them that I'd been searching for. I'd been searching for other people like that. And it was their first event to have that sort of breath work and that sort of release. And they didn't understand why. Like, why am I crying? Because I'm breathing. And it's not about that. It's just that you're finally letting go of what it is that you're holding on to. And you may not even know what that is. But then probably afterwards, when we're talking around the fire, you start realizing, oh, that's what that was. I was holding on to that feeling and I just couldn't let it go. But my breath just said, no, that's it. And as we're sitting around the fire, we're sharing stories and laughs. And I never, ever felt this sort of connection with those boys ever. Like we're closer than we've ever been because we went through that journey together.
Great, mate. Yeah,
it's crazy, huh?
Yeah, and that's that feeling you had is the feeling I had with those 60 other people the first time, when I did that Wim Hof retreat. It was from then. And I just thought, fuck it, you're being your authentic self. Here you are. You're being your true authentic self, mate. How fucking good is that, mate?
Yeah, it feels good.
Yeah, it's beautiful, mate.
It's just such a positive message. And to really take, like, for you to have such a big revelation like that a few years ago and to change your whole life towards it, I can only imagine how big it must have felt for you to want to put your whole being into this and to sharing it and spreading the word and making a big community around you. I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, thank you, mate. And I think, and that's the thing, that's the driver, just we keep going, mate, and it's only the start. And, and we can't do it alone, mate. We just got to keep bringing everyone along,
Yeah, 100%. And you have such a good way of explaining it and showing it. Like, you're very charismatic. You're almost like you're the most Aussie version of Wim Hof that I've seen, because Wim's a bit wacky and he's out there and you bring this Aussie persona.
I think it's just being myself, mate. And that's what I realized.
True. Yeah.
Just being yourself, just drop all the stuff because, we've got what society's placed, what we have to look, and be and feel, all these kind of things, just be yourself. Just be yourself, mate. And start to think about the heart. You come into the heart space, mate. Keep saying that. Out of the head and into the heart. What does the heart say? What does the heart say? If you see someone and they might be having a hard day, just talk to them, and when it changes, things happen, energy changes. It's all these things that are happening. It's beautiful, mate. It's not always easy either. We just got to keep just chugging away at it. Just keep chipping away. Like I say, mate, just put the nail bag on. A lot of times up here, when I've started building stuff, I've got a sweat lodge here. I've built out of stone, and I've got a plunge pipe. It's a plunge pipe. It's 3 meters deep, full of cold water and ice. And I'm building this stuff, and it was like, what do I start next? Because I wanted to get that. I wanted to get it all done. That was the thing. I wanted to get it all done, mate. And I thought, in the end, it was too much. Put the nail bag on, son. Just put the nail bag on and start doing something. Do something, mate. Like John Kennedy said, you're too young for this, mate. You wouldn't. I don't think you would. You want to live with John Kennedy.
No.
Have you heard of John Kennedy? Great Hawthorn coach.
Oh, you lost me. No,
okay,
no idea.
There you go. Anyway, there's a famous. They were in trouble. I can't. Was it 19? I can't remember what grand final it was. It might have been in the 60s. I don't care. Do something.
Yeah.
Do something, mate. Do something. Don't come off the ground and you haven't done anything. Do something, because they were behind, And it was this magnificent speech that John Kennedy gave the Hawthorn boys. I should remember the date, but it was bloody just. And that's what one of our events was. Don't think, do, mate. Just do.
Yeah, right. Just push that first domino over.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, right. And it's the times, and you've always got to be, it's not, as I said, always easy. Like, still I've got stuff I have to do, because my original vision here was everything would be done. But that's not that financially, that can't happen, mate. I've got to have people coming through. It's about the journey. That's the other thing. Life is a journey. It's not about the end point. And that's what I always thought. It's the end point. It's about the journey. We need to love the journey on the way, mate. The journey was, in Glen Lyon 2 weeks ago, 67 blokes in the town hall. That's the journey, mate.
Yeah.
The journey's when you and I met at the bloody, at that hot spring.
Yeah.
you know. It's
Those
all,
little,
you know, and when I sit back and think about those things, it makes me fucking happy, mate. You know what I mean? That's what I think. Well, yes, these things that are happening at the moment, uncertain times, we come back to those things, and just even if you sat, you know, for 10 minutes and think about those positive things, they can't ignore them, mate.
yeah, it puts everything in perspective, eh?
Mate, bloody oath.
And like you're saying, it's the journey and not not the end point or destination. And that was actually how we kicked it off, because your tattoo, you've got the what's it called, the Ouroboros?
Oh, the Ouroboros. That's right. You asked me about that.
Yeah. So
yeah, that's right. Look at. There's no end point, mate.
That's it. Yeah. So the snake eating its own tail, like the infinity sign. It's never ending. There is no ending. It just keeps going.
It keeps going, mate.
Yeah. And I remember just thinking, because I'm pretty down for this stuff, and I love these sort of conversations. And I'm never sure with anyone I meet, but I just asked you, you know, what does it mean to you? Like, what's that tattoo? Obviously, I have my own meaning for it, but you've got it tattooed. So what does it mean to you? And you're like, life, mate, life never ends. It's ongoing. It's just transitions. And I was like, yep, all right. I already know I'm going to like this guy. He's thinking that way. That's nice.
That's what we have. Yeah. And as I said, like it's about me now realizing that when I was 50, I had this rite of passage I went through, and it's eldership now for the younger ones, mate. So, you know, and there's a group of young fellas that were there also. I don't know if you met any of the fellas from Castlemaine. Great fellas, you know. We catch up regular. They come and work out here, and we have a chat, you know, have an ice bath, have a chat, you know, and just share. And when we have good discussion, you know, like bands is good as long as it doesn't get out of hand. You know what I mean? Like there's some toxic shit that happens.
Yeah.
But band is great. You know, that's great. But it's having, you know, some deeper conversations, mate.
Yeah.
You know, we got to get into, you know, not just on the surface stuff.
Yeah.
You know, check in. But how are you, Josh? You know, just how you going? What's going on, mate? You know, all those kind of things, and having a great, you know, an in-depth discussion on that is important, because it opens things up, mate, for us.
Yeah. And a follow-up question to it, because I think a lot of people might even just be shied away from that because they don't want to go into the heavy stuff and it's going to be emotional and I'm going to feel exhausted. But I think the more that you do it and the more you normalize it, it doesn't have to be a big 2-hour, you know, D&M that we're talking about this. It can just be, just tell me, you know, and tell me again, and then again, and we're just going to normalize this. And I'm going to say how I feel. You can say how you feel. We don't have to cry about it. You know what I mean? But to really just be honest with me, just tell me.
That's right. And I think one of the most important things is, you know, if you're in a group, you know, say of men, and they're sharing, you just listen. It's so powerful just to listen and not to give them advice, only if they ask for it, but just to listen to them. That's really powerful, mate. And I learned that, you know, early on, is when you hold these space, you listen.
Hold the space.
That's the hardest bit. Yeah, because the hardest part, like, you know, as I said, is for someone to come out, a man to come out in front of other men and say how he's feeling. That's fucking huge, man.
True.
You know, it's huge.
Yeah, true. So listening with the intent to really listen and not to reply.
Correct. Just listen, and then, as I said, and then if they ask you what would you do, you can then you can then share with them. You know, but otherwise, that's because otherwise they shut down, mate. You just got to let them go.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, that's huge.
And men also have to lean in a bit, mate. It's like lean in. You know, like you've got to lean in and give it a crack too, though. You got to put your shoulder and the foot, because this is a doorway that's opening. This is the uncomfortable doorway, you know, that you want to lean in, put the foot in so the door doesn't close behind you. Just fucking keep pushing a bit, mate, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, so just encourage us around you.
What I'm talking about when I say I'm talking to men, you know, if it's uncomfortable for blokes to share this, just fucking lean in. If you're safe, you're in a safe environment, whatever set area, you know, stays in the group, you know, it's so powerful, mate. As you know, it's really important that you know, people can speak from the heart when they're in these, if they want to. That's the other thing. When they share, they don't have to say anything. They can say, yeah, I've had a good day, I'm all right. So no one has to do anything. This is the most important thing. No one has to do anything. That's really important. And there's no judgment. No judgment, mate.
Mm. Yeah.
They're the things.
Yeah.
You
So
know?
just let it be on their own terms. Don't be pushing for it. Yeah.
Pushing it, and then see what happens.
Yeah, true. Because I think because a lot of people and especially men, we always struggle to communicate. But I feel like we're not. Well, I think we might have talked about this, or I've heard this somewhere else. But it's not that we're not communicating; we're just doing it in our own way. And I think that especially with men, we're not very vocal. You know, we might be doing it other ways, like we're present here, and I've done this for you, but it's hard for him to actually speak up and voice it. So I think even just like being that voice for one of your mates, because I know I've got plenty of mates that they're not happy to talk about whatever. But I think even if I'm just voicing it constantly, they know, like they're not stupid. They know in their own head that, okay, this guy's actually about it, and he's constant, he's consistent. So I am okay and I am safe. And on my own terms, one day I might share a little bit voicing, but even still, I think that if you pick up on those non-verbals, you sort of get that they're picking it up,
But what happens also and especially when, like, these breathing sessions I take, for example, you get a few fellas that might share, right? And the beauty about that is that it can also open the way for the next person, because then they see, for example, when I did this, that retreat in 2016, I let everything out, mate. And then it allows, because I was probably one of the eldest, I was probably in about 5 out of the 60 that were, the older group. And then it allows the younger ones to think, well, fuck, Mark's done that.
Yeah.
It's okay. You know what I mean? Or this is the thing, or Josh is, telling how he feels, he's sharing. And then it gives people, it gives them like a path or it gives them it. They feel, well, I can give this a crack,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And we went through that with at Glen Lyon as well, the same sort of thing. And some people are happy to share some pretty heavy stuff, and everyone's happy to listen, and it's okay, because, man, I think I thought about, I can't remember what the bloke's name was, but he shared such a common thing that happens, especially that age in your mid-30s, when or if you break up with your partner and the kid's on the way and she's making it hard for you to see your kid. And I could only imagine how tough that would be. But hearing that guy speak about it, and I was thinking, fuck, yeah, that'd be tough. But listening to everyone acknowledge that and be like, yeah, fuck. Because how many of them in the same room out of 60 people would have been going through it right now, or have gone through it before? That same sort of process. It's so common. And I think that I can almost think of nothing harder to go through than to not be able to see your own kid.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess, everyone's got their own story and it's all relative to them, but it makes you, I don't know, it just feels way better when someone is willing to go through that and speak about it and sort of show you that anything that you're feeling, you're not alone in that. And it's okay to be feeling like that. I would too. And I think that just gives a lot of people that sort of, they just let go of it, like, oh shit, I'm not alone. Someone's done that before me. And if someone's done it before me, then I can do it too.
That's it, mate.
Huge.
So that's my main, as I said, coming back to this, the Wim Hof stuff is a tool in my belt. For example, I don't want to be fine just doing the Wim Hof stuff. It's a great tool, the breathing technique, but there's other stuff happening, the rite of passage, the support, building the community. There's all these other things that are happening, all these different modalities. And it's not about doing one thing. It's about doing a number of things. We've got to eat good food. It's important, good discussion, good food. Yeah. Ice bars, hot bars. That's the other thing. I remember for a while there, I just only had cold shower. If I'd have a shower, it'd be cold. But nurture yourself. We train hard. We also got to recover hard, mate. Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, that's it, mate. Cool, man.
Yeah, that's I mean, we've pretty much covered all bases there, and I'm pretty stoked with how that went. And I'm happy that we had this conversation. I'm happy that everyone got to listen in on it. I hope they take away something